Sukkah Muduvleles, a sukkah which is Muduvleles, which the Gemara is going to explain what Muduvleles are. Veshetilasa Meruba Mechamasa, Veshetilasa, and its shade Meruba is more than Mechamasa, its sun, Kishera, its kosher. Hamuva, if it's thick, the schach is thick, Kamin Bai is like a roof, like the roof of a house. Even though one cannot see the stars from inside, mitoicha, from inside the sukkah, kishera, it's still kosher. So that is the Mishnah. Now the Gemara is going to explain the first case of the Mishnah. My muduvledes question mark. What is muduvledes? What is this? What does it mean? Amar Rav, sukkah aniyah. Says Rav, it means a sukkah aniyah, patchy, small amount of schach, full stop. Or Shmuel Lama, and Shmuel says, kana oila v'kana yored. One beam up, one beam down. That's a sukkah muduvledes. The two options, Rav and Shmuel. Says in Gemara, Rav tani chada, comma, Rav learns the first two halachas of the Mishnah as one case, or Shmuel tani tarti, and Shmuel learns the first two halachas of the Mishnah as two cases, comma. Rav tani chada. Rav learns the two halachas of the first two halachas of the Mishnah as one case, being Sukkah Muduvleles. This is how he reads the Mishnah. Sukkah Muduvleles, comma. My Muduvleles, question mark. Muduvleles, which is the same as Aniyah. It means it's patchy, it's a small amount of schach. Now, carries on the Mishnah, this Muduvleles, in order for it to be kosher, has to be Shetzilasa Meruba Mechamasa Kshera. The Muduvleles Sukkah has to be Tzilasa Meruba Mechamasa, means it's one case. It's a Muduvleles, which is Tzilasa Meruba Mechamasa, is more shady than the sun, and that's why it's kosher. However, it would be more sun than shade, then it would be posel. There's not enough schach. Full stop. Or Shmuel, and Shmuel, Tani Tarti. Shmuel learns the first two halachas as two separate cases, comma. Number one, my Muduvleles. First he explains the Mishnah. What is Muduvleles, comma? Mubulbeles, comma. It means Mubulbeles, which is the same as Kana Oila, Kana Yerid, means it's one up, one down. Mubulbeles. Mubulbel, in literal translation, Mubulbel means confused. It means it's not straight. It's going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Vetarti Kitani, and he learns it as two separate cases. Case number one, Sukkah Mubulbeles Keshera. Halacha number one of the Mishnah is that a Sukkah Mubulbeles is kosher. Mubulbeles meaning one up, one down. That Sukkah is kosher, comma. Now, case number two, if the shade is more than the sun, keshera. Now, the fact that Shmuel makes the Mishnah as two separate cases, case number one, Mubulbeles being kosher, and case number two, needing the fact that there's more shade than sun, implies that the first halacha, when it's Mubulbeles, when it's one up, one down, when you're sitting inside the Sukkah, it's more sun than shade. And it's still okay. Why? We're going to see in a minute, either because of lavud or because you kilo pull it down, because we look at it as if it's flat. But in its actual now, the way it is now, when you sit in the sukkah, it's very possible that there'll be more sun than shade, and it's still kosher.
So using that logic, why can't you say by a patchy sukkah? You look at it as if it covers the whole sukkah.
Right, because it has to be some kind of language, which means there's something called lavud. We learn how halachah which we've seen here tells a certain halachah. So there's something called lavud, you connect or pull down, which is another halachah which we've seen now. But you can't add something that's not there. It has to be something that's there, and then certain halachah is what you could do with it. Yeah, base it off one of the halachah which we've seen. There's no halachah mishina of taking not enough schach and making more out of nothing. Okay, amazing. So that is the two halachas. Now Abai is going to go on Shmuel. Shmuel said that the case of Muduvleles is one up, one down, and now we're going to explain that halacha of one up, one down. Amar Abaya, says Abaya, Loi Shanu Ella.
This is what you wanted to know the...
Amar Abaya, says Abaya. Yeah, is it good so far?
Yeah.
Amar Abaya. Yeah, exactly there where your thing is. Amar Abaya, says Abaya, Loi Shanu Ella. This halacha that Shmuel says that it's one beam up and one beam down, yeah? Up, down, up, down, up, down. Loi Shana Ella is only talking about she'ein bein zeh lezeh shloisha tefachim, that there's less than 3 tefachim from one beam to the next beam. Because you're saying lavud, yeah? You're connecting them and you're making as if it's got a roof going up and down of schach, and that's why it's kosher, because you've got shade everywhere. Loi amarin Ella, Loi Shanu Ella, it's only talking about she'ein bein zeh lezeh shloisha tefachim, that there's less than 3 tefachim between beam and beam. However, if yesh bein zeh lezeh gimel tefachim, if there's more than 3 tefachim between each beam and the next beam, pasula, it is possible. Yeah? If there's more than 3 tefachim between each beam, then it's possible.
Measured sideways or
Slanty.
Check on the wall opposite. As you come in opposite, I think there's a load of blue Gemaras.
Okay, so that's halacha number one, that we know that for Shmuel Sukkah to be kosher, it has to have less than 3 tefachim in between one beam and the next, slanty, because you're going to say lovod. Now, Amar Rava, Rava's going back on what Abai just said. Amar Rava, afilo yesh bein zel lezeh shlosh tefachim nami. Even when there is more than 3 tefachim, that Abaya just told us that when there's more than 3 tefachim slanty, it's a sukkah pasula, it's not kosher. Loya Morin Ella, that it's possible is only going to be talking about a case, she'eim begagoy tefach, that the beams are not wide a tefach, meaning the higher beams, the top beams are not a wide tefach, Aval yesh begagoy tefach, but if the beams on the top are a tefach wide, the bottom doesn't really matter because we're not doing anything to them. We're only pulling the bow on the top ones. So those are the ones that need the tefach in order to see. We're not connecting exactly, we're just pushing them down. She'ein begagoy tefach, aval yesh begagoy tefach. She'ein begagoy tefach, aval yesh begagoy tefach. However, if the beams do have a tefach width, then kashera it's kosher even when there's more than 3 tefachim space. Why? Because we're not doing lovod anymore. Now we're doing darminon chavoit rami. Another halacha in Moshe Sinai that you can take a roof, you can take something which is a tefach wide and push it down. And therefore over here we're going to push all the higher beams down to be in level with the bottom beams. And now once in halacha we see them all within level, then they're now doing their job, making more shade than sun. Everything clear?
I don't understand Robert. I'm saying what? Even when you've got
More than 3 tefachim, so now you can't connect it with lavud, but you've got something else you can do. Just pull down each beam, all the higher beams, pull them down.
need a paper to draw.
The actual width of the higher beams. Width, not the gap. The width of the higher beams are a tefach, and that way you can push it down in halacha. Halacha, which you see there.
you look at them in between
The other ones, and now you've got no spaces. You've got a regular flat schach, and in its,
Is arguing on a
he's adding a extra clause to Abaya, to Rava.
Yeah, but it's not.
I don't know if he's arguing. Abaya said one halacha that when it's less than a tefach, then it's true that it has to have less than 3. Now, Rava's adding on to Abaya. Even you, Abaya, it could be Abaya will agree to it. Even in the case where you said it's psula, there'll be a case that it's kosher, which is when it's at least a tefach wide.
Missing one picture. 'Cause then you would have.
Okay, now we're going into a bit of a hard Gemara. It's a new Gemara, a bit of a hard Gemara. We're going to try to keep
We're just talking
cheshbon.
about this way. Why
Huh?
does it show you upwards?
Yeah, I don't know why it does it.
It's not. It's meant to be.
It's meant to be on a slant. I mean, whatever. It's a bit of a machlokas there in Eruvin. That's why I told you. I said yesterday that it's a machlokas over there, but Pashtas you do slanty. Rashi takes on slanty. Okay, now we're doing a new Gemara. Rebbe Reuven, are you with us? Amar Rava. Mina Aminallah. Rava just told us a major chiddush which is called chavoit rami. You can pull down beams. However, Rava said a t'nai. Rava said a condition. Has to be a minimum of a tefach. Says Rava, where did I learn this halacha? That when you've got a tefach, when you've got a roof or a beam which is a tefach wide, it can come down. When it's less than a tefach wide, you can't come down. Amar Rava, comma. Says Rava, Mina Aminallah. Mina, from where Aminallah do I know this thing that I just told you that you can say chavoit rami when it's a tefach, comma. The chi ispe tefach when it has a tefach, comma. Amar Rava, comma. Mina Aminallah, where do I know? Comma. The chi ispe tefach, comma. That when it has a tefach, Amrinan chavoit rami, comma. You will say chavoit rami, pull it down. V'chi lespe, and when it doesn't have a tefach width, Loi amrinon chavoit rami, comma. You will not say pull it down. Where do I know this halacha from? This halacha that I just told you, there's a difference between a tefach and less than a tefach. Ditnan. So now let's just remember, just before you can put it as a footnote, but it's something that we've already spoken about quite a lot. We know that when the roof is a tefach wide, then it brings tumah to anything under that same roof, right? Now, we also know that, number one, it brings tumah, and it also stops tumah, like we saw by the cases of the child on the show with the delis and all that. Also, oil does 2 things. It brings tumah to anything under the oil, and it stops tumah going up. So let's have those 2 halachas in mind, and let's try go through this case. So you've got here a house. Now, the houses in the olden days, I think nowadays are automated. You've got joists, and then going from joist to joist, you've got the other way, something called, what do they call them? Okay, you've got something going the other way. They've always got the joists one way, and you got the other woods the other way. Now this house is missing the woods going the other way. It's only got the joists going from one to the other. So you imagine now a house, let's just say, for example, there's 3 joists on for the bottom floor, and then there's the upstairs. So the upstairs roof also has 3 joists going along without anything else. Now, that's the case. So let's just go through it quickly and we'll go over it again.
And then it's obviously a not finished house.
It's a not finished house or a bashed down house, whatever it is, but it's just got a house empty. Yeah, exactly. It's got spaces, just 3 joists, let's say, another 3 joists, 2 floors. Imagine.
Well, they want on top of each other.
We're going to go exactly through all these cases. Get gazut. That's exactly what we're going to speak about.
Building site.
Yeah, without the electricity in it.
Like to go there.
Yeah. Nan.
It's going to be cool.
And you won't buy it yet either.
Now is when I'll buy it.
Just put a plastic over the roof and sell it. The Nan. We learned in the Mishnah. We're just starting the new Gemara. Perfect.
David, not so quickly.
Nice and smart. Morning.
Afternoon.
Okay. Amarava, we're just starting a new Gemara. Okay, perfect. Probably did Chazar yourself already today, so you're great for the new Gemara. Amarava. Yeah, Amarava, Mina Minallah. So Rava told us a halacha that you only say Chavot Rami when it's a tefach. Yeah, when it's a tefach wide, you pull the beam down. When it's not a tefach wide, you don't pull the beam down. So now Rava's going to tell us where he knows this halacha from. Where did he learn it out from? Amarava Mina Minallah, where do I know it from? Kama, the Chi'espe tefach, Kama, when it has a tefach. Amrina Chavot Rami, we say Chavot Rami, Kama, V'chilespe, and when it doesn't have a tefach, Loi Amrina Chavot Rami, we don't say Chavot Rami, Kama, Nan. Now he's going to bring a Mishnah, and this Mishnah, at the end of it, we're going to explain where it's from, but let's just go through the actual case of the Mishnah. Okay, Kairos, the beam, so we're just saying that we've got this house, then maybe you'll know, there's joists in a roof, and then what goes from joist to joist? You know what they're called?
You're not.
Right, so no one does. There's something that goes the other way.
Noggins.
Battens. Timber
What do you
battens.
call it?
It's not our word.
In Ivrit, they put cement everywhere, and they just loads
Cement,
it.
you know.
Anyway, so this house doesn't have the beams going the other way. So it's only got the regular joists. It's got the downstairs joists and then the top floor joists. That's all it's got in this house, nothing in between. Now, so koros, habayis, aliyah. The koros are the beams, the joists of the upstairs, and the aliyah of the abayis of the downstairs, and aliyah the upstairs. Comma.
Which one's the upstairs, which one's the downstairs?
Abayis is downstairs, the house is downstairs, aliyah means the upstairs. Comma. Koros, the beams, the joists, habayis of the downstairs, v'haliyah on the upstairs. Comma. She'ein alehem mazeva. That doesn't have there's mazeva, which no one really knows what they're called. Mazeva means what they put across. Plasterboards, noggins,
I know what.
trusses, battens, whatever you want to call it. Whatever goes on to finish off the ceiling, basically.
What? To finish on the ceiling?
Yeah.
Plasterboard. You bang up some plasterboard.
Okay. I think it's
We don't just bang up.
exactly. There is woods going across also.
Yeah. What parts do you mean? Do you mean the parts that go in the middle?
It doesn't really matter.
You're going to have one which goes that way.
Yeah, and then
you
you've got-
one which goes the
Yeah,
other way,
that's called
and then you
noggins.
put the tiles on top of it.
Yeah, it's called noggins.
Not the floorboards.
Noggins. They go in between, inside. You got the thingies. They go
Whatever,
in
we know
between.
what they are.
Well, anyway, basically, this doesn't have anything going the other direction. So it's just got 3, let's say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, upstairs and downstairs. She'ein aleh mazeva. It doesn't have a roof.
You guys.
V'hein mechovanos. So this is what you were discussing before. What's the case? V'hein mechovanos. The case number 1 is that they're directly one on top of the other. Yes, imagine one beam like this, one beam directly one on top of the other. So now, Tuma v'hein mechovanos. Who said trust? You've got an askama there. Rabbi Google agrees with you. Right, you're out of your job.
What?
Find yourself a new job.
No, I didn't.
No, Moshe did.
Tip up.
Yeah, exactly. Tell him. Okay, v'hein mechavanos, and these 2 downstairs and upstairs joists are exactly one on top of the other. So now, tuma tachas achas mihen. So let's go now. The bottom joist. There's tuma under one of the bottom joists. So we know this is halacha. They're tefach wide. So any tuma under that same joist, any kelim or people under that same joist as the tuma, is mekabel tuma. Yeah. So tuma tachas achas mihen comma. If there's tuma under one of the bottom beams, tachteha tome. Under it is tome. Full stop. Yeah. So did everyone get that one? V'hein mechavonus comma. Tuma tachas achas mihen. If there's tuma, a dead body, under one of the bottom beams, comma, then tachteha tome. Only underneath it is tome. Anything on top of that has an oil stopping the tumah, yeah? So number 1, it blocks the tumah going higher, so you can have kalim on top of the beam, that will be absolutely okay. Anything which is under that same beam is Tommy.
Why is it an oil?
Why is it an oil? It's tefach wide. All you need for oil of tumah is tefach, tefach roof.
The body
You
goes
don't need.
wider than the beam, right?
Sorry?
The body goes wider.
I don't think it makes a difference.
what
I don't
if
know, but I
something's
don't think it makes a
underneath?
difference because as long as
if something's
there's tumah underneath that, then any tumah that's underneath the beam will just anywhere.
If there's no beam and there's body sticking out, there's tumah.
Yeah, but then it will just go up to the sky
but they're talking
if there's
about
no
something
beams.
below it.
We're talking about
Exactly, so it's
underneath.
not oil.
Yeah, but it's underneath this beam, which is
So
oil.
anything on top, exactly on top of the beam isn't
On,
tumah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This oil will be, if this is the beam,
Yeah.
the oil will be directly down.
Exactly. Yeah. But I imagine that the tumah is the same size as it. But he's saying right that if the tumah sticks out and there's tumah something over here, then it'll become. Means anything on top of this actual beam won't become tummy because this will stop the tumah going, and anything underneath this actual beam will become
If there's
tummy.
something here,
It won't become tummy. No, because it has to be under the same oil.
So if you walk under the beam, you'll become tummy.
Yeah, because you're in the same oil as this. Great. Okay, so now, these two beams are so the downstairs one. Tumah tachas achsmen. There's tumah under one of the downstairs beams. Comma tachtel tome underneath that downstairs beam. That actual beam is tome. Full stop. Now, what happens if, for example, just use as a second, you've got here. Don't forget they're one on top of the other, and now tumah is on top of this one. Yeah. So now this beam causes tumah that anything's under this one now becomes tome. However, tumah under this bottom beam is blocked by this beam, that tumah doesn't go downwards, and anything on top of this one also doesn't come tumah. So there'll only be tumah in between the two beams. Anything higher and anything lower has a blockage. This will block up and this will block down.
How? Because it's both tummy.
Yeah, they don't actually become tummy. Oil never becomes tummy. It just causes, it transfers tumah. Besides for one kind of pishton, that does actually become tummy, that you're saying by my medlikim for those who say it. But most oilim, if in a house, let's say, a house can't become tummy. So the actual house won't become tummy, but it'll just cause tumah for anything under that same roof.
it's connected to the ground. So
Connected to the ground, but even if it's a wooden one, it's not. It won't
it's still
become tummy.
connected to the ground most of the time. It's like
If it's a
on the
house,
ground,
right.
You can't really pick.
Yeah. So tumah tachas achsmen tachtel tummy. Now, bein tachtel le'elyoina, if there's tumah between the bottom beam and the top beam, comma. Beinehem tame, full stop. Between them, which means any tumah which is between the two beams is tame. Anything on top is tahor. Anything underneath is tahor. So it has to be beinehem. Now, al gabe helyoina. What happens if there's tumah not on the bottom beam but on the top beam? Yeah. So nothing underneath it is tame because this beam is stopping any tumah going downwards, and there's nothing stopping this. So now from here till Shemayim, is anyone who just goes over this tumah now is now going over tumah and becomes tame because there's no oil to stop it. And if anyone flying over an aeroplane over this house will become tummy practically. That's where the jim bang bang, exactly.
My dad's done it.
Yes, al gabe elyoina. If there's tumah on top of the top beam, then comma kenegdo, exactly opposite that tumah, ad l'rakia, until the sky is tummy. Now, when it comes to this halacha of the top beam, there's tumah, let's say, just over here on this edge of the beam. Then the tumah doesn't go along the whole beam and up, yeah, because it's not oil. This is just a floor. So exactly on top of the tumah, that causes tumah up, but nothing further than the actual tummy piece, yeah. Great. So those are the first three cases, and these are all cases when the two beams are exactly one on top of the other. Now, hayo ha'elyonim, ha'elyonos, sorry, kebein ha'tachtonos. Now imagine instead of them being one on top of the other, you've got one here, one here, one here, one here. Sorry? Mobabeles, exactly, but this is not a sukkah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly the same case, one up, one down, and they're not one on top of the other. They're one next to each other, but a bit higher. Right, Tahayo ha'elyonos, the top ones were kebein ha'tachtonos. In the gap between the two bottom ones was this top one. So you can imagine like that, like that, like that. Then, comma, tumah tachtein. So now what if you've got tumah under this bottom one on the floor here? On the Gemara there's tumah under the bottom one. Yeah? So anything which is under this one becomes tummy. Yeah? So hayo alyonis kebein ha'tachtonis, if they're in between the bottom ones, comma. So tumah tachtein, if there's tumah under one of the bottom ones, comma, tachas kulon tommy. Under everywhere is Tommy. Yeah? The whole house becomes Tommy.
So whether it's the upstairs or the downstairs.
Upstairs, downstairs, well, obviously not on top of this, but all this area.
Does the Gemara say that?
What do you mean?
If it's on one of those beams,
No, not on. Now we're discussing when it's on the floor. It's on the floor now, and you've got beams going like this across the whole house. Yeah. We're discussing. A tachtein means bottom one, yes.
But
So
if
now
I stick my hand like this,
Tommy, because the tumah goes up, down, up, all
Yeah, I
the
get
way
it,
along.
I get it.
Right. Let's see why.
If you don't do it, Shmuel.
I didn't think of doing it.
So tumah tachtein, comma
Into
tachas
bin
kulon tomei. The whole bottom floor under all the beams along the bottom floor is all tomei. Exactly. Now, full stop. Al gabein. However, if there's tumah on one of the top ones, then connect al lirikia tomei because there's nothing blocking any of them. Yeah. So any tumah that's on top of any of these beams has nothing on top of it till the shemayim, and it goes. The tumah just goes up and doesn't stop.